From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is a weekly podcast about consumption. It's no longer about horror movies. Well, this week. We are, of course, proud members of the Run Podcast Network. You can find all of our previous episodes, all of our upcoming episodes, and all the other great shows on the You Run Podcast Network at yourunpodcast.com. And, of course, with me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. Hopefully his brain isn't quite as farty as mine is. His name is Sean. Sean, how are you doing today?
If you live through this, tell Rostov it's time to die. I'm kind of foggy too, John. Public service announcement just before we get started. If you are of a certain age, go get a colonoscopy because it'll save your life. That's what I did today. I got a colonoscopy and I got put under. So I think I'm good. I mean, it was like 10 hours, 12 hours ago. So I think I'm good. But if I say anything,
lighter?
I'm sorry.
Do you feel lighter?
No, because I did all the prep. So I've been feeling lighter. And then I'm filling all the pipelines getting filled back up full of stuff to shit out. But yeah, like if you're over 40, I don't know what the guideline is now, the medical guideline, but if you're over 40, consider getting it done. It's like a big, serious thing for a lot of people of our age. People go undetected, not knowing that they have, some kind of cancer, and colon cancer is horrible. So do it. This is like my 8th colonoscopy. So I'm used to it. It sounds scary. It's not scary. It's fine. You'll be fine. You'll get through it. It'll be fine. Yeah, I got to put up with some shitty time, like literally shitty time. You're going to be sitting on the toilet a lot, but it's worth it. John, go get a colonoscopy.
Actually, my doctor told me I have about 2 years before I'm due for one. They saw whatever. Mm-hmm. And she seems to be taking quite joy in the fact that she's going to do that in about 2 years. I'm like, oh, great. So
your GP is going to do it?
She's the one who's recommending it in a couple years. She said she said she didn't see the need for it the last 2 times I've been in there. So, well, yeah. So,
if you have insurance and it won't break the bank and your insurance will cover it, I mean, it doesn't hurt anything. You're not going to get cancer earlier because you got it done.
You know what? No, my luck, I might. So with that in mind, Sean, what have you been watching this week?
I've been watching a camera go up my ass. No, so I've watched a few things.
Put that on the fucking YouTube channel.
Yeah, there you go. Check the show notes for where you can see that. So I watched a few things. Nobody told me that Alone season 12 came out, and it came out earlier in the summer. I had no clue. Season 12.
I didn't know.
Well, thanks for nothing. So it's all this time, instead of being in like cold weather climates or whatever, this time it's in South Africa. It's in Africa. They're in the desert, and it's 10 episodes long. It's already done. So you can, if you find it, we'll leave a link in the show notes, but you can find it online. It's the entire season. You can just binge the whole thing. It was so difficult for people to get water in season 12 in Africa that I think 5 of the contestants lasted less than a week because they just couldn't get water. They couldn't keep like replenishing their water, and they weren't getting any food, but you need water more than you need food. So that was Alone season 12. I watched a documentary called Shut Up, Little Man, and I know that you're familiar with Ray and Pete. So this is a doc from, I think it's 2011. It's available for free on Plex. If you're not familiar with Ray and Pete, so John and I have lived in the Detroit area forever, and there's like a local morning radio show, basically Drew and Mike, that would play clips from Ray and Pete. And there were these 2 drunks basically that lived in San Francisco, and the guy that lived next to them, the walls were so thin that they could hear them complaining or arguing with each other and hitting each other and abusing each other. One of them was gay, and one was one was very homophobic, and they lived together. They were roommates, and so they would just scream, the worst things you could think that you would say to someone. They called each other cocksuckers all the time, and, telling each other, shut up, little man. That was like the thing that one of them would say to get the other one to shut up. And so their neighbor rigged this microphone on the end of a boom pole and stuck it in their window and started recording their like 3 a.m. arguments where they were screaming at the top of their lungs at each other. And at first, so the documentary covers the whole story behind it, but then also what came of it. So eventually it got popular via tape trading groups that would trade these underground tapes or whatever of these guys arguing with each other. And the documentary tries to catch back up with these guys like after the fact. They catch up with their on again, off again roommate Tony, and they try to get him on camera to talk about it. And the film starts to examine, but really very surface level, examine how they made an imprint on pop culture, because some of their recordings were used, and like Devo used it on an album. Some people made music. They did plays. They tried to base multiple movies off of the story of these guys, and the film very lightly skims over the fact that they were basically exploiting these two guys without them knowing anything about them being recorded, and that this was becoming traded across the world. And eventually made it on CDs. The guys that recorded it eventually copyrighted it. The whole story behind that. I won't get into any more than that. The only thing I will suggest, I will try to find a link for the show notes to put it in that is not based on the Plex.com stream of it, because I watched it on Plex and it was, it's an hour. I want to say it's
every 5 seconds.
Oh my God. I have not watched much on Plex. And when I watch it on my PC, I have an ad blocker. I have Pi-hole. You don't see the ads. But when I watched on my TV, you could get through 10 minutes. An hour and 30-minute movie took almost 2 hours to get through with all the ads that they put in there.
The only thing that's worse for ads than Plex for things is Pluto and YouTube are both way worse.
Pretty bad.
Well, YouTube, it almost depends on what you put on, but I feel like YouTube's like, hey, you've been watching for 30 seconds. Here's 5 minutes of fucking ads that you might or might not be able to skip through. So anyway.
I've had YouTube Premium since they started that, and I have never seen an ad, and it doesn't seem like my rate has gone up much in the past couple of years, so I'm cool with it. I don't mind paying them a little bit to not watch the ads, but I don't want to go through all the shit that all the ad blocking shit that they're doing nowadays. Last one I'll talk about is a movie called Red Surf, and it is from 1989, and it stars George Clooney in a very early role for him. It's got Gene Simmons in a really small part, Doug Savant.
I like my Gene Simmons acting.
Yes, it's got Doug Savant, and who we talked about in Trick or Treat, and it has Dee Dee Pfeiffer, who is Michelle Pfeiffer's sister, who's been in a few things on her own. And it's a hard one to really talk about. Not really to talk about, to either recommend or say much bad about it. It's really like this rambling, not as good Point Break. They're surfers. Clooney is like a drug runner who takes drugs off of buoys. Somebody comes along and hooks these drugs up to these buoys out in the ocean, and they ride these. They're called wet bikes, but they're like snowmobiles on water. More so than it's not a jet ski. It's a wet bike, and they are drug runners, and they're looking for one big deal so he can escape California or the area with his pregnant girlfriend, who is Dee Dee Pfeiffer, and they pick up these drugs and they give them to the cartel guy, the Mexican like drug dealer. He is a Mexican, so me calling him Mexican, it's not saying, oh, Mexican drug dealers. He is an actual Mexican. So the movie is just like
you're going so far out of your way to clarify here. I think it's great.
I mean, he's a Mexican. He's a Mexican guy. He's from Mexico, and it's just like I don't know, man. It's not great. Like, I read all these people saying like, oh, this is a undiscovered gem. This is something you should watch. It's like really good. It's for what it is. It's kind of just rambling. It's not very exciting. It's just, it's trying to punch above its weight, but it's not really succeeding in the fact that it's trying to, like, it looks great. The acting's actually really good in the movie. Everything, the performances are all really well done. Even Gene Simmons is pretty good, but the story itself is so middling that regardless of the performances, it cannot be saved. So I don't know. Watch that one at your own discretion. That's
Would
what
you take that over the other super young George Clooney movie, Grizzly 2?
I have not seen Grizzly 2, but I would say Grizzly 2 might be more fun than this. It's a Vinegar Syndrome.
It does have a bear attacking hippies.
Yeah, so. I mean, what can be better than that? It's not.
I think
Return
Vinegar
of the
Syndrome did. I think they released Grizzly 2 also. Maybe
possibly.
Sure. Anyway,
it's no, Return of the Killer Tomatoes or whatever the other George Clooney thing he was in. But yeah, it was a Vinegar Syndrome release. You can find it. I'll link to it. I found it on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing for free. It looks fine. It's just, yeah, I saw these people saying how, what a great, under the radar kind of undiscovered gem. And I was like, this is fine, but it oversold, underdelivered. So that's what I've been watching. John, what have you been up to?
So at the time that we're recording this, we're still right before Halloween. So this won't sound as out of date, and this episode should come out right after Halloween, but I gave Halloween H2O a rewatch, which I haven't done in a while. So Halloween H2O is the one that came out, it must have been 98 because it's 20 years after the first one. And it's got Josh Hartnett playing Jamie's son.
I thought you were going to say Jar Jar Binks.
No, might as well. But he's just a fucking 90s goober, like through and through. Like everything about him in this movie, you just look at and go, I really have a lot of fond memories of the 90s, and you're just like personifying almost all the bad things about it. You got JGL getting fucking murdered as shit before the movie even really gets going, which is kind of entertaining. Jamie is back, but she's like low-key drunk through the whole movie, and that somehow kind of works. And Myers still looks absolutely fucking terrible. And I'm saying all these things knowing or feeling that this is one of the better movies in the Halloween franchise. And we have a few years before we get full on talking about this one, so I'm not too worried about, ruining it for you. But it's amazing because I'm all the, like, when I take notes for, like, this type of stuff, I don't go in as much detail. It's just a couple, like, high, whatever.
Bullet points.
High view, bullet points. And they're all really negative. I'm like, but I like this movie. I don't know why I'm being so negative towards it. So, that one's fun. It's, obviously, again, being right before Halloween, at least for me, I like watching a handful of those movies. 'Tis the season, I guess. Should I go opposite route with a documentary type thing, or should I go opposite route with a TV show? What do you want to hear about first?
Give me the TV show. We've been talking about TV shows a little bit more recently, so give me the TV show first, and then give me the doc.
You'll love this.
Nice.
They put the entire Baywatch series on Tubi, and I've kind of been half-ass watching Baywatch.
Okay.
So,
'tis the season.
I remember Baywatch. You're right. I remember Baywatch for two reasons, and they were both on any one particular one at any given point of the episode. So I remember swimsuits and tits. That's all I really remembered of it. And then I was like, oh yeah, David Hasselhoff. This is a straight up cornball action sequence TV show I've ever watched in my life. This show is so stupid. One, lifeguards aren't police officers, right? They have no legal jurisdiction to prevent or combat crime, right?
Not as far as I know.
Why are these people running around in swimsuits stopping liquor store robberies and shit? Like, what the fuck is going on here? So that's a thing quite a bit. And they kind of slice that together with people running on the beach in slow motion because, it's Baywatch. And just everything that comes out of Hasselhoff's mouth. And I think he's relatively sober at this point, or at least at this point of the show, because he seems like he's together. It's just like, man, you wrote some real cornball shit for this show. And I'm not watching it, really paying attention to the plot or anything. I'm just kind of having it on while I'm doing other shit and whatnot. And I gotta say, I'm moderately entertained by how stupid this show is, because it's probably the most PG-13 version. Like, this feels like it would be a canon film as a TV show, except they PG-13'd out all the boobs and all the real violence and just made it really low-level crimes. Like, oh, it's a purse snatcher and the lifeguard threw his fucking boogie board thing at him or caught him up with it and wrestled him down. It's really stupid, but it is moderately entertaining for whatever fucking reason. So take that for what it's worth. And Pamela Anderson still can't act. She was not good in this any more than she was in Barbed Wire.
She was so
and
good
I don't
in that
remember
one.
which one came first. So
Baywatch
came first?
Yeah.
Okay. So she was better in as Tool Time or whatever. So, what can you do?
Less lines.
And then, what's that?
Less lines as Tool
Less
Time
lines.
in Home Improvement.
Oh.
She had way less lines in Home Improvement than she did in Baywatch. So it's probably why she was
That's
better.
true. All she had to do was like kind of strut out with a tool and like,
Here you go, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then on a more serious note, as far as something to watch, so there's a new documentary that's on Netflix that's called My Father the Killer, and it's about BTK. And it's supposed to be told from the perspective of his daughter, which I thought was interesting because obviously that's going to give you a very different insight to this horrible person's horrible life. And it is it's like an hour and a half long. And it is for like 30, 40 minutes. It's her telling, I remember this, I remember that. She's basically talking about having like a seemingly normal life up until he got caught. Like he you almost have to wonder, like, did you just not notice anything because like this was normal to you and like you wouldn't think anything about it? Like, it's not like he's going to come out and be like, by the way, I'm BTK. Do.
Well,
like,
he didn't seem very smart,
maybe.
so maybe he would do that.
Well, he did until he didn't. But so there's part of me when I'm watching this, because there's a lot of like, they're just telling you the story of BTK, like what you know from every other documentary or book or whatever that you've read, all this, his crimes that he did and whatnot. And then they'll cut back to her. And I felt like a real son of a bitch because I'm watching this. And I mean, as morbid as this sounds, I find BTK to be one of the more interesting serial killers that was out there because he was fucking with the cops and going back and forth and then just went like silent for what, like 20 years or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
He actually blames that on her because he was too busy being a father, which, you know,
God damn, being a dad got in the way of all my killing. It's bullshit.
It's basically what he says. But I also was watching this. I'm like, man, I'm a raging asshole because I'm watching this and thinking, this is all fine and good and good information, but I really came to hear her side of this story. And it's less than half of that. But when she is telling her side of the story, this is going to sound even dickish now. She's like breaking down and crying. She's, you know, it obviously still affects her quite a bit, which,
how could it not?
I mean, you found out you're right. Exactly. But then you also wrote a book about this and you do this. You're a professional, I guess motivation speaker is not the right word, but support for
horrible people,
families,
relatives of horrible people.
Yeah. Like I don't even know. Yeah. Advocate, I guess would be the word, you know. So she deals with this day in and day out professionally. So you almost leave again, this makes me sound like a complete dick and I am. You leave it thinking I kind of wanted more of what she had to say. But this is obviously not easy for her to talk about either. And maybe this is all she could emotionally or physically, I don't know. So it leaves you kind of wanting more. And then it also leaves you feeling like an asshole for kind of wanting more because yes, relive your trauma for my fucking amusement on a Saturday afternoon or whenever the fuck I watch this. So it's, if you're interested in that particular like person, then yeah, watch it. I don't know that you're going to get a ton more than what you would from every other documentary, but it is interesting. And when she does give her side of it, it's definitely more of a highlight than just the stuff that we already know. And they do have a couple like videos of her or instances of her talking to him that are interesting because you kind of see his facade break a little bit, which is kind of interesting. So
okay, creepy.
Yeah, that too. It's a little bit of both, but I don't know. Like I said, I wanted more, and I'm an asshole for that. What can I say? But that's all I got for this week. I'm probably gonna watch more Baywatch later because that's been far more entertaining. So
John needs to crank off.
Something like that. We'll call it that. Sure.
Got to relieve some tension.
Is that what we're doing now?
I mean, I'm not watching Baywatch, so I don't know.
I mean, I didn't have a colonoscopy earlier, so there's tension to be relieved, I suppose. But so all that stuff squirted. Let's go ahead and take a break, wipe everything down. We're going to come back and talk about another movie that looks kind of crusty. It's called Invasion USA, and we're going to chat with you about that in just a moment. Hey, John here. We recently conducted a survey of 500 senior citizens, and 499 of them said they would rather listen to any podcast other than the Dewey Pod Monster. We're here today to talk to the one. This is Crazy Balls Johnson. Crazy Balls, what do you like about the Dewey Pod Monster podcast?
I love that you guys are always balls to the wall, living life on the edge, talking about bullshit movies that everyone else hates. But I eat that shit up like a pig in slop.
You heard it here, folks. You can eat that shit up like a pig in slop, too, along with all the other fine podcasts at yourunpodcast.com. All right, so we're back. We've wiped everything down. And as mentioned, we are going to be talking about the movie Invasion USA. We start with a third-party review, and we're going to read at least one, maybe two. The second one is going to be a little bit tiresome. The first one's from Anonymous, but they give this movie 5 out of 5 stars, and they say, Yet another reason why critics should all be homeless, which I like that.
That's, yeah, I mean, you could say a lot worse things.
Well, and that's where Carson P comes in. And Carson P has apparently never used a single bit of punctuation in his or her life. And Carson says, it's easy for critics and film communists to mock this film as a mindless nonsense with no real plot or logic. To somehow I enjoy it. I don't know why, but I just do. It's probably because of the scenes where Norris fights the terrorists with two unusual guns in an outfit that looks as if he's trying to be a potential action star. There is amusing moments, including lines he delivers, like when he brings back the bomb who wishes to blow up the school bus to terrorists. And it goes on like this for about 2 more paragraphs. Anyway, Carson babbles on for a while and then says, I recommend anyone watch it. At risk of those moments where Norris fighting, be prepared to fight and sit through nonsense acts to get there. Overall, my rating is a 5. And then his rating on the movie is 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Just so everybody knows, what you just heard was not edited at all. This is an actual thing that John read. So just wanted to throw that out there. This is not funky editing or anything like that.
And I also skipped about half of it. So take that for what it's
and it didn't make any more or little less sense than it did otherwise. So it's all good.
It did not. So I need a breather for a second. So Sean, what is Invasion USA about?
Okay, so for that, we go over to IMDb. We type in the word invasion and then the initials USA, and it pulls up a movie from 1985 with an R rating. It is an hour and 47 minutes long. It gets a 5.5 out of 10 with 12,000 ratings. And we read this thing at the top. We're never quite sure if it's a storyline or the plot, but they wouldn't put it up top if it wasn't supposed to be read first. It says, a one-man army comes to the rescue when the United States are invaded by communists. And if we scroll on down, we get to this other thing. It says it's a storyline, so we're going to take it for its word. It says, a terrorist, Rostov, is planning to... this comes care of RCS0411 at yahoo.com. Thank you, RCS0411. He says, or she says, a terrorist, Rostov, is planning to unleash a reign of terror on the U.S. But before he does, he decides to go after Matt Hunter, a former CIA agent who lives in Florida. Hunter once had Rostov's life in his hands, but on orders took him alive, and now Rostov is plagued by nightmares of Hunter killing him. So Rostov goes after him, but misses. So Hunter, who has already been approached by his former employers to go after Rostov after initially turning down the job because he believed that they should have let him terminate Rostov when he had the chance, decides to go after him. But he is only one man, and Rostov has hundreds of men ripping the country apart. So how will he stop it? ? I was going to say, these guys, I think anybody that writes a synopsis or some storyline or something for this movie, they love it so much that they just become delirious.
Chuck Norris bazookas the fuck out of all the punctuation.
They become so delirious they can't even use complete sentences and words, much like we're stumbling today. But yeah, I mean, that's just show over. All right, let's get to hot dogs. Everybody loves this movie. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Well, before we get to hot dogs, we might as well talk about the movie a little bit, at least from our perspective. Do you want to go over any of the cast in this? I mean, I feel like there's only a handful of people, but I will say there's 2 names that are part of they're not, at least I don't think they're actors in the movie. I think I might have saw one of them for a second in the mall that I think are interesting names to be on this particular movie, but I want to see if you grab them.
Oh, I probably didn't. But so I'll go through, like I say, when I read these cast lists, these are more people that I recognize in the roles that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what they're known for. So we'll go through the cast.
You'll recognize these names. I don't know if you'll recognize them for
I want to hear
movie.
What you're going to tell me. So the cast that I have is Chuck Norris plays Matt Hunter. He was in, of course, Walker, Texas Ranger, Breaker, the Delta Force, and Michigan Action Series. And of course, my favorite Chuck Norris film, Sidekicks. We have Richard Lynch, who plays Rostov. He was in the 2007 Halloween, Scanner Cop, Cyborg 3, Alligator 2, Trancers 2. We have Eddie Jones, who plays Cassidy. He was in Q, The Winged Serpent, Chud, The New Kids, and Sneakers. We have Melissa Prophet, who plays McGuire. She was in Casino, Goodfellas, Action Jackson, and Fatal Games. And we have one of my favorite actors of all time, character actor Billy Drago, who plays Mickey. He's in the movie for about a minute. He gets shot in his penis. He is in Untouchables, Tremors 4, Delta Force 2, and the 2006 version of The Hills Have Eyes. And also Cyborg 2. So we had Richard Lynch in Cyborg 3 and Billy Drago in Cyborg 2. That's what I got. Who are these illustrious actors that you picked out?
I'm going to say 3 now because you skipped the director. The director is Joseph Zito, who also directed, not only was the other fucking movie he did with Chuck Norris, Missing in Action, right before this. He also did Friday the 13th Part 4, and who he brought from Friday the 13th Part 4. And I don't know if they're in Missing in Action also, but from what I heard, he basically went from one set to the other and started working on these Chuck Norris canon movies. He brought Tom Savini and Greg Nicotero to be the makeup effects artists in this movie. And I guess there's a couple scenes where you can tell where there's makeup, like that kind of makeup being used. And I didn't go back and rewatch it. There is a scene in the big mall shootout where there's a guy with he looks suspiciously like Tom Savini in Dawn of the Dead, which is basically how Tom Savini dresses.
Yeah.
But I didn't stop it and check it. I just was like, oh, that kind of looks like Tom Savini. And then when I heard it after, I'm like, I don't care to go back and watch that again right now.
Were they involved in the bazooka scene at the end?
I would assume so, because that's one of the notes that I have is that scene gets kind of gnarly. And knowing that those two particular humans were doing the makeup and effects like that, I can only imagine that they had at least something to do with what came out of the window.
And while we're on the topic of who was in this and whatnot, and the director, Chuck Norris and his brother Aaron Norris helped write the screenplay for this movie. So I just wanted to put that out there. It'll possibly come up. I don't know. It's just the kind of ideas in this movie.
I mean, it might, because there are things on both sides, positive and negative here, but we tend to start with positive. So let's go there first.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off this week? What do you like about Invasion USA? There's quite a bit on both sides of the coin for this one, actually. I think, but
all right, yeah, I can start. Do you want to go back and forth? You don't want me to give you a laundry list and you give your laundry list?
Let's go back and forth.
Okay.
I like it better when we go back and forth.
I will start by saying this movie is just brutal, extreme brutalism to the max.
Yes.
Everything is just from the beginning of the movie, the very beginning, before we even see Chuck Norris, there is a ship that's coming from Cuba that's intercepted by this quote unquote American ship. And they act like they're going to, hey, come on, welcome to America. And they're going to drag them into shore. And instead, what they do is one of the guys, there's kids and all these people on board. And they're like, hey, guy, come on up. And they pull him up, hey, the handshake, we'll pull you onto this American boat. And as they pull him up, Richard Lynch, I don't know why I keep saying Richard Lynch. Richard Lynch, I
kind of like it.
Puts a plug in his head, just shoots him in the head. And they machine gun everybody on the boat. There's just crazy brutality. It's like they put a prompt into the 80s equivalent of Chat GPT and said, give me how many different ways I can just shred people. There's a hooker in the hotel room that she's snorting coke, and Lynch smacks her head on a metal cocaine straw and it goes in her head. He throws her out the window. There's Billy Drago, like I mentioned earlier, gets shot in the dick and the penis. Just people at night.
Couple people get that.
People are trying to make whoopee on the beach, and they get trampled by all these troops. And that's just the first half an hour of this movie, max.
Yeah.
So it's a plus and it's a downside. The pure brutality of everything that happens in this movie is one of the things that I will mark. It weighs a little bit more on the like side than the dislike. So I'll just give that. That was the first like that I had for this movie.
I'm going to piggyback on that because one of the things I really, really love about this movie, it is kind of over the top with its brutality, and that, okay. I love the practical effects and they're not even sets that they use. So this is where we'll go ahead and put spoilers in here if you somehow haven't seen Invasion USA.
Or care to.
First, I kind of wonder why you're listening to this show if you haven't seen a movie like this. This feels like the kind of movie that might be required watching for this show, but
it's like the bread and butter.
Yeah. The little suburb that they go into and blow the shit out of, families and everything. One, it's insanely brutal because they literally just go and level a town with their unlimited rocket code that they have going throughout the movie. But I love that they found a little neighborhood that was scheduled for demolition anyway. And it turns out they paid $7,000 per house to blow them up. And they literally just let them come in and shoot rockets at houses. Same thing with the mall that they drive through. When they go and bust up this mall, that mall, it wasn't scheduled for demolition, but it was going to get heavily made over. So they were going to have to do a bunch of demo in it anyway. So they found this mall and they were able to just go fuck it up.
Go hog
and
wild.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they had to pay to the mall to be able to do it. I'm sure they had to pay something to it. But the fact that they, instead of doing this on a set or a sound stage or whatever, that they actually went to these locations for this kind of movie and just went fucking ballistic on multiple sets, I think is fucking great. And then even on like a lesser one, this doesn't involve blowing up a mall or a neighborhood, but there's a chase scene in the middle of this movie. I believe it's right after the mall when they're leaving the mall, if I remember right. A lot of these stunts are done by, I think Chuck Norris does 90% of his stunts in this. He's given Jackie Chan a run for his money, which is kind of cool. And there's a lot of stuff where you're like, holy shit, Maniac's actually doing that. There's a woman particular in this chase scene where the movie depicts them holding her by the hair, hanging out the window of this truck. And I don't think that would work like practically. I'm pretty sure her hair would rip out well before they get to where the scene goes with it. But just the visual of what they're putting this woman through, one, it's absolutely fucking insane. But for what this movie is, a 1985 action movie, my exact note is, holy shit, that's how you do a chase scene. Because for all the things we'll get to with this movie that might not be well done, the action sequences in this are as good as anything that came out of the 1980s action genre. Like, I can't think of like anything that... I mean, there might be something better out there. There might be something more fun out there, but this is up there with and you're going to hear this movie come up again when we get to dislikes, but this feels like anything that they did in Commando, anything that they did in Rambo, any of these other movies that came out around this time. This, from a action sequence standpoint, I feel like this movie did just as good, if not better, on all that shit.
Yeah, this is a Canon Group movie, so you kind of...
Oh, for sure.
You
at its best.
Yeah, so, and you kind of equate those with not being high budget. And this doesn't look high budget at all, but they do not spare any expenses with the demolition, the explosions, the effects, the action, any of that stuff. I'm going to combine two of my likes to just kind of reiterate what you said on some of it. The mall driving scene, incredible. Smashing through everything in the mall, holding that lady's hair, driving through... driving down the road the whole way, and the inevitable end where a grenade acts like a stick of dynamite. It's 80s to the max. This is the 80s, so why wouldn't a grenade act like a stick of dynamite? And this is one of those movies it's one of those 80s movies where you watch it and you are just flabbergasted that a stunt person didn't die from some of the things.
Oh, yeah.
From the mall scene in particular, people jumping out of the way, people looking like they're millimeters from being squished against things. The armored car scene in particular, where the door blows open, the garage door, that guy sitting behind the desk,
yes.
and they're like guarding they're guarding.
If that's not a dummy, that guy is dead.
Yeah.
If that's not a dummy, that guy's got to be dead.
There are these armored cars that look like shit. I mean, they're basically like aluminum foil on top of plasterboard, like just garbage trucks. And the bad guys, the invaders, need to steal, or they want to steal, this fleet of armored trucks. And these two guards are guarding it. And it's just this big, like a regular garage door.
It's like a desk right across from
and there's looking straight at the desk.
Right across from a garage door.
And this car drives into the door, and the door blasts.
It's like the worst possible place to put a desk.
Yes. It blasts into shrapnel, essentially, and this big chunk looks like it hits the desk, and the person sitting at the desk is just like obliterated. And
you see him fly out of screen.
Yeah. Just with slumped over. You're like, how many people didn't die? I would be more surprised that how many didn't die during this movie than actually lived. It's insane. But I have another but I'll let you hit on something you got.
So we've already kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm not sure how good of a character Rostov is. And I say that partially because I only remember his name as Rostov because I'm looking at it right now. And there's other things that I have that are negatives about him, but I like how unnecessarily over the top brutal he is. And as terrible as it is, I laugh every time he shoots a guy in the dick. And it does happen. It only happens twice, but it's still more than once. Because the first time you see it, you kind of have one of those, holy shit, did he just do that moments? And he does it again. You're like, oh, this guy's just got a thing. So, he's kind of got a little bit of that, like John Lithgow. I'm thinking specifically like Ricochet, like nothing's going to stop this guy.
Maniac.
He's going until he's dead type guys. And that's fine. Again, we'll come back to the negatives about him, but I do like just how when this movie decides to go, it's just, there is no second gear. It's like, there is no third gear even. This is just in fourth gear the whole fucking way. And it never really, as far as the action sequences go, it never really stops with that. And it did a good enough job with the big bad in it that I don't want to say it covers all the negatives around it, but it's enough to make you overlook it when you watch it or rewatch it, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up that Richard Lynch piece, because that was the other thing that I had listed is Richard Lynch is such a bastard lizard man. Like he is. Yeah. If you don't know, I love
the story
of
how he got, why his skin looks the way it does.
Yeah, he's like burnt, basically, right? He got burnt.
Well, how he got burnt, right?
Tell me how he got burnt. How did he get burnt?
A bunch of LSD and lit himself on fire.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So
yeah, I know, right?
He's one of those.
It ended up being a good career move for him because he wasn't acting, and then he started getting roles as bad guys because he looked all fucked up.
Yeah, and he probably never wrinkles. So that's, no problem there. But he's the one. He is so brutal. He's such a brutal bastard lizard man that he slams the hooker's head, like I mentioned earlier, on this cocaine straw, throws her out the window. He seems to take joy in like exploding, demolishing, blowing up all the houses in this like suburb plot or whatever, this subdivision. And he's just so hateable. Like there is nothing about this character that you would look at and be like, that is such a cool guy. You're just like, oh my God, I can't wait for Chuck Norris to fucking kill this fucking guy. He's such a dickhead, but he's such a hateable dickhead that it's like, I think that's a positive.
Yeah, my negatives with him we'll get to, because it kind of, quite frankly, we'll go ahead and pivot to here. The only other positive I really wanted to say, and you mentioned it a little bit, is the finale scene where he gets his. Although I don't think the physics of it work, I'm pretty sure we'll just say it, if I use a bazooka and shoot a rocket at you from, we'll say 7 feet away, I'm pretty sure that's going to be bad for everyone in that radius.
Yeah, it's not a good scene.
But
literally,
there's several times in this movie where, one, apparently rocket launchers can hold a unlimited amount of rockets, which I thought they were like a 1 and reload type weapon, but what do I know? And two, like, for that matter, guns too. Like, it doesn't matter if you're aiming or what, as long as you're shooting and spraying wildly, everything's going to be just fine. So that happens a lot.
It's the 80s.
But I think this is a good time to kind of pivot into like criticism on this one. I'll start it with, as much as we like Chuck Norris, and I might get punched into oblivion for this, his acting is fucking wooden as shit in this movie. His dialogue is barely there. And when it is there, he's got 1 or 2 good lines. He said one right at the beginning. He's got the, like, I'm going to hit you with so many rights that you'll beg for a left or something along the, yeah, something like that. But for the majority of this movie, it's just extreme close-ups on his, like, bearded face, and him kind of walking into or driving into these situations. He's almost like Florida Batman. Like he's he just like instinctively pops up wherever the terrorists are, and arguably does as much damage as the terrorists do, but also has a tendency to just kind of pick up explosives and redirect them where they conveniently are timed in a way that works in his favor. And while we're on the subject of characters not being really fleshed out, you could say the same about Rostov or whatever. Like you kind of know he's a communist of some sort, but like, is he a Russian? Is he a Cuban? They never really flesh out his motivations other than to kill Chuck Norris.
This is 1985. He is the bad guy. He is the bad guy. The Americans are the good guys. Bad guys are communists. That's all you need to.
Yeah, no, I know. I get that.
I get where you're coming from, but yeah, that's kind of the thought process, I think, behind all that.
So, I guess we could blame Chuck Norris for this since he's takes a writing credit, him and his brother. But when you're not looking at an action sequence in this movie. To call it thin would be a compliment.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think one of my biggest complaints about the movie is that we get 35 minutes into this thing without Norris even like quote unquote accepting the mission yet. You know, like we are waiting. There's all these scenes in the Everglades, him doing the airboat or whatever those things are fucking called, and flying around in the weeds and stuff. We must have been writing the same notes, because all the things that you really touched on, like my dislikes for this movie, I'm just going to run them down because they're so similar to what you've already mentioned.
I got a couple others too, but go ahead.
Yeah. So Norris, there's a scene. I don't even know if we've ever talked about the story, the actual story. Like basically all these communists are going to, I mean, our third party reviewers in the storyline did such a great job at being coherent about what the story was. But basically all these communists are coming in. They're going all around the country. They're having these acts of terrorism, right? And that's supposed to, that's throwing the country into terror, because that's what terrorism's for. But there's a scene, you mentioned it, Chuck Norris, he finds this suitcase full of C4, and it's put in front of a church. He redirects it, puts it in the bad guys' faces. He blows it up. He's standing above it. And it's this like so much C4 it would blow up a city block, but all it does is it looks like it has this little
4 guys.
It's like a firecracker. Some dust flies up, and instead of knocking down a city block, he just blows up a couple cars and kills some guys. I already mentioned some of the effects are so chintzy, or some of the vehicles and some of the set pieces are so chintzy, like the armored cars that are basically, like I said, cardboard or chipboard or whatever in aluminum foil, that when the tanks roll up to them at the end of the movie, like the U.S. Army comes to try and intercept Rostov and they set a trap and all this stuff, which they don't really telegraph at all. It just kind of happens. They make it look like they really show how sad the props are. And other than Norris not accepting for 35 minutes, my other big complaint is that Norris is like the worst hero. He's like the baddest hero of all time. He has no regard for human life, whether they're good guys, bad guys, whatever. He's just recklessly driving around on the road, shooting bad guys while like regular citizens or bystanders are just, trying to buy groceries, or they're driving down the expressway or whatever. And he's a fucking ghost. He appears like almost anywhere shit's happening, to the point where he should be considered a suspect for all the bad shit that's happening, because he's always in the spot where it goes down. He could be easily confused with Rostov as being the villain, and it almost feels like some weird Munchausen syndrome or something, where it would be a crazy twist if at the end of the movie you actually found out that Norris was the bad guy the whole time. That would be, I don't think my mind would be totally blown, but I think it would be kind of cool that you're like, oh shit, he is actually the bad guy, because every place a bad thing happens, he's there. He's like the catalyst. He's rescuing. He's the Richard Jewell. He's the Richard Jewell of the entire situation. I'm going to save all this shit. I mean, Richard Jewell actually wasn't a bad person, but he was made out to be the villain, like in real life. So that's me drawing my stitching all my red yarn together.
I think in terms of Norris being a shitty hero, I kind of agree with you, but I think what could have made it so much better, there's a news reporter that's in this, and she just keeps calling him Cowboy, and she also is coincidentally just there all the time whenever this shit happens.
Yeah.
And I mentioned I was going to come back to comparing this to a couple other movies. I know he wanted Whoopi Goldberg to play that role, and apparently that's why he never worked with Joseph Zito again, is because Zito vetoed
Zito
Whoopi
veto.
Goldberg.
The famous Zito veto.
Now, I don't know that I could see Whoopi Goldberg being in this, but I do think, had you picked a comedic person to be a foil to him, and I don't remember her name, but the chick in Commando is the perfect example. The girl that's basically ends up, her. You need almost someone like that just to sit there as Chuck Norris is driving around bazookaing, school buses or whatever. I guess he does the opposite of bazooka, the school bus, but as he's doing all these things, having her
the school bus.
Yeah, if you have her dropping comedic lines or freaking out while he has to deal with her on top of all this, right there, like, you cover up a lot of the problems that I have with the writing in this movie, because at least you have this, I don't want to call her like she's the person in the audience that the audience point of view where you're like freaking out or doing whatever with it. Like, again, I don't have a person off the top of my head who I would have picked to do it, but I think that's what the biggest thing this movie needs is someone there for the audience to connect to, even if she or they are just sitting there being like, oh my God, what the fuck? And all this through the whole movie. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I think that would take it next level if you had a character in there that was like a Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Die Hard 3.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of where I'm going. This movie comes out right around the same time as Commando, as Red Dawn. I don't remember what year Rambo came out, but it's not too far before or after this, give or take a couple years. All these movies where it's the action guy fighting the communist is a pretty common thing around this time. And quite frankly, like all those movies they might not be better at the action sequence part of this, but each one of those movies is a better movie because whether it's Arnold or whether it's Swayze or the kids in Red Dawn, the chick, even the bad guys in Commando, and I'll even go as far to say Stallone and, you know, Chris Farley's dad from Tommy Boy, they're all better characters than what we get out of the character development in this movie by a pretty good margin. And I think that's the biggest thing this falls short on is like, yeah, we get all these crazy action sequences. It's a classic in its own right because of that, but just having that little bit of humanization to it would go so much farther.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, said perfectly. I think that with a comedic foil, the everyman character with Norris, it would only make this better. And it's funny that you mentioned earlier about Norris's acting being so wooden. And it's that movie with Louis Gossett Jr. that I talked about however long ago. Was it Firewalker or something? That's another Canon Group movie. He is such a better actor in that movie because he's like not afraid to kind of have fun with his character. Whereas these movies are so self-serious. Like Norris has to be this badass. He cannot show any emotion. He just has to be on the whole time.
I mean, that's fine, but you got to have someone there to have something.
Sure.
Like you can have him just go and be this raging boner of testosterone through the entire movie and just stick his crank in the missile launcher against the other guy's crank in the missile launcher and see what happens. But there's for a movie that's got families getting wiped out left and right, they literally have him pulling up to a bus that they stick C4 on. And part of me is like, well, at least the kids will stop singing because they're singing row your boat.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I know it's not good. You know, for all the things that happens in this movie, I mean, they try to give him a couple one-liners, but they don't land because he's so uninteresting through the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And again, even if you compare it to Rambo, who is pretty much a loner in that movie, like he's running around in the woods and whatever, he's still like got Stalloneism. So between all that, he's still like as he goes and, you know, cut some shit up or whatever. So
blow some dudes up.
It goes a lot further than what you get out of this. And I think that's why a lot of people probably haven't seen this. It might be why it bombed at the box office because the action stuff's amazing. Like I would say the action sequence in this, you could put up against damn near any movie from the decade. I already did say that at some point here, but everything else, it falls really quite short.
He doesn't feel like a human being, essentially. Mm-hmm. He shoots from the hip, constantly has the little garter belt with the fucking Uzis on him that he just sprays and prays and he hits everything.
I did write that. I was like, Sean's going to love him shooting a bazooka from the hip.
Yeah. I just love the Uzis, like the garter belt with the Uzis on it. And he's just like popping off rounds after rounds after rounds. And like, I mean, he does reload, but he just hits everything he needs to hit. And everybody else is just spraying all over the place, shooting from the hip. I mean, it's the 80s. Like everybody shot from the hip. They didn't even have sights in the 80s. They just invented those in like 95 or something. It's crazy.
It's just, they invented them to keep up with Chuck Norris, apparently.
Probably.
So.
Yes, probably.
That's all I got, though. I mean, anything else? The only other thing I would say, and this is more of a nitpick, but it is something you kind of expect out of Chuck Norris. He only kicks like 2 people in this movie.
Yeah, I have that. That's totally part of my wrap up. So why don't we just fire up the grill? We got some cooking to do.
All right.
Then you're in for a big treat, bro, because it's hot dog time.
You want me to drive through the mall first, or do you want to blow up the neighborhood en route to the mall?
I don't care. You're the host. You tell me.
So for me, I mean, this movie, I went into this movie, I've seen this before. This is not a first watch for me. I know it's not for you either. We didn't bring that up this time. I went into this movie and my initial thought was, if you don't like this movie, I don't understand why you like this show at all. Like, this is the kind of movie that is 100% on brand for this show. I still agree with that, but this is what happens to me every time I watch this movie. I remember the high points and I forget all the other bullshit that's in it. And at the end of the day, it's a half a hot dog because of the fact that although it's got these amazing peaks, the valleys are so low. And when there's not insane action shit going on, I do find myself kind of going back to the phone, and because now I know the beats and I know what's coming and whatnot. So I find myself going and doom scrolling or, getting up like, all right, I can go take a leak now, or go get a beer, whatever, that type of shit. So it's fun. It's a good movie. It's absolutely one, if you haven't seen, you should probably check out. But I can't give this full hot dogage just because as close as it comes to being that level of classic, it's one character or a handful of writing choices away from getting there for me.
Whose hot dog is this? Huh? Is it yours?
I think what you just said is funny because I'm going to hit on the same things, but I think that an idea like this was probably wild in the mid-'80s, like an outside terrorist group invading American soil, creating havoc, instilling fear in the general population. That was probably crazy, but sadly, these days, that's really happening on a smaller scale. We just call it domestic terrorism. It's like, we have all these people doing the same shit here, but they're actually like citizens of this country, so maybe not so wild these days. This movie is wholly unrealistic. The portrayal of what would happen, even by 80s standards, is insane, but I think that's what makes it fun. We're full on commando Chuck Norris at this point. He's not the guy that's kicking and punching small town toughs anymore. And I think maybe, by this point, he's already transformed in the guy who's just full on murking dudes with double Uzis from the hip, pinpoint accuracy, no problem. Invasion USA is full on brutality. I think we're actually a few movies into him already being more of the commando than of the martial art Chuck Norris guy that we usually think of. Like, I think Lone Wolf McQuaid is probably like the last movie that he was legit just like this karate dude. But like I said, this movie is just full on brutality, from the regular run of the mill kills to the final confrontation with Rostov. And like I said earlier, speaking of Rostov, I feel like he really steals the show as how unlikable he is. There are no redeeming qualities to this character. He's just a total dickhead. You want to see him dead. He is a fun character to watch, but you want to see him dead. This is a tough movie for me to rank. Does have a
satisfying death. I'll give him that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great death, but it's a tough one to rank. Ultimately, if you like 80s action movies, if you haven't seen this and you don't mind the runtime, like I said, an hour and 47 minutes is kind of long for an 80s style action movie. And I think most of that is attributed to how long it takes for Norris to actually like kick into gear what he's going to do. I think this is a definite watch. I went the same route that you did, but got to a different like end result. I would say if I know that this is our rating, we can do whatever the hell we want with it. If I could give this like 3/4 of a hot dog, that would be what I would give it. It's like one of those movies that it's a fun watch. I think that you should watch it if you haven't seen it before. I've seen this a couple times now, so I would say this is a definite watch for me. I would give it a full hot dog, but if I was like on a more, I don't know, granular scale, I'd give it 3/4. It's not quite one full hot dog, but it's not quite half a hot dog. So take that for what it's worth. I guess I gave it 3/4 of a hot dog. That'd be my rating.
Oh, hot dog, no tip.
Yeah.
I like it.
Nice.
So hey, we're not just the tip. We're no tip. You get all the shaft.
Yep.
So that brings us to question of the week. And this week we asked something kind of fun, kind of silly. We just wanted to know, what is your best Chuck Norris fact? And apparently this isn't as popular as a thing. If we had done this like 10 years ago, we probably would have gotten 500 responses, but we only got
reading
like
this
4.
By the time you hear this episode, we'd still be reading off everything.
They'd all be run on census. So we're going to start over on Blue Sky today, and we're going to go to Boomer from Podcast in the Woods. They're at Woods Podcast 1. And he says, Chuck Norris was turned down for a part in Mission Impossible because with Chuck Norris, they would have had to change the title to Mission Walk in the Park. Straight to the point. He would have blown everyone up. Over on, Threads, we have Justin, who's over at Pop Culture Reflections Podcast, and he says he kicked Jeff Jarrett's ass in WWF at Survivor Series 1994.
I like it.
I love that Justin didn't
go
for a joke. He just, right. Even better. Over on Instagram, we have Greg from You Can Eat That Crust, and he says, Chuck Norris knows Victoria's Secret. And then last, we have our friends over at Dissect That Film, and they're saying that he caused the Big Bang and created the universe while enjoying a cup of coffee. I'm going to give the winner to Justin this week because he used a straight up like fact and he kicked the shit out of Jeff Jarrett. I like that. Do you have any Chuck Norris facts?
No, I don't. I was never a fan of the.
I wasn't either. So
yeah, I thought that was
actually kind of made me. I don't know about you, but it actually made me stop watching Chuck Norris movies for quite a while because I couldn't get past that.
We're the same person, John.
Sometimes. You got anything you want to add here before we wrap up for the week?
No, let's wrap up for the week.
All right.
My ass hurts.
Well, we're going to wrap up. We're going to mop up. We're going to go bandage up our appendages. We're going to say, I don't even know how I finished the show now. So if you'd like to follow us, you can do that. We are on social networks all over the place. We're at Dewey Pod Monster on the majority of them. If you can't find us on there, you are either on Blue Sky, where we are at crap.town, or we're not on that network or that. Time to die. You can also find us on all the podcast platforms that are out there. We do ask that if you are listening to this, leave us a review, whether it's positive or negative, preferably positive, but whatever feedback, it helps us get better, or share the show with a friend. That always helps too. And of course, we do ask that you please do go to yourunpodcast.com. You can check out all the other network members there, as well as us if you want to. Please do find a new show that you haven't heard before. It's always worth getting into something new. Maybe you can hear someone tell you about a movie that doesn't involve Chuck Norris, because I don't know if anyone else on the network has talked. Yeah, they do. Or last and certainly not least, you can go to crap.town. That is our site where you can get all of our episodes, even the ones that have been taken off of other places because of copyright bullshit. Or you can leave us feedback. You can tell us what other Chuck Norris movies we should watch, or you can tell us what idiots we are for not being more positive about Chuck Norris in Invasion USA. We were somewhat positive. Whatever you want to do, it's all available for you. Sean, what am I forgetting?
I was going to say, if you want your answer to the question of the week read on this here show, like all the other fine folks that answered the question of the week, check us out on social media on all the places John cares about. If you want to check us out, we are at Dewey Pod Monster. If you want to check us out on Blue Sky, we are at crap.town. If you like or are interested in any of the things that we talked about this week, you can check them out in the show notes. They're generally pretty free. We try to make them free. I don't know any other show that offers, there's no other show. What am I talking about? There's no other show in the universe that offers so much free content to its audience. You can click those links. Like I said, most of the stuff is free. If it's not free, it's going to say Amazon next to it, more than likely. If you click that, if you buy something through that Amazon link, it doesn't even have to be the thing we linked. If you want to buy your shopping essentials from Amazon, just click our link first. Prep. Yeah, exactly. You want to buy some Miralax or some Suprep or whatever that shit is. Magnesium citrate. If you want to do that, colon blow. You can do it on Amazon. You buy that thing. We get a few pennies off of whatever you buy, and that helps feed the show, I guess, and stuff. If you want to follow me on social media, I am exclusively on Blue Sky. I signed a multi-year agreement in perpetuity. I guess that would be more than a multi-year agreement. You can check me out. I'm at internalbleeding.crap.town on Blue Sky. John.
That's it. That's all we got. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Swell up, Butthorns. Cheers.
Bird season's over, Butthorn.
We are, of course, proud members of the Run Podcast Network. Why did I just brain fart?